masterpiece, his great gift to Islamic literature, and the melter and the delighter of so many hearts historically to this day, is his book Haft Awrang. Haft Awrang means the seven thrones, because it's a huge piece of work, but it's divided into 7 masnavis. Rumi has this masnavi, he has 7 masnavis, which are rhyming couplets. So the first half and the second half of each line will rhyme. Haft Awrang, 7 thrones, but it's also a name in Persian for the 7 big stars of the Great Bear, so it's kind of a constellation. And this is a book which was so cherished and honoured that some of the most beautiful illuminated Islamic manuscripts are actually of the Haft Awrang. Some of the treasures in the British Library and the Library of Congress, this incredible jewel-like thing with illustrations and gold leaf, dazzling. So a couple of years ago, I was at a conference at the University of Tartu, the Gustavian University of Tartu, which is in Estonia, just a few miles from the Russian border. But it's a major university and had a significant 400-year history, largely at the hands of local Livonian German scholars, but there were Orientalists there. And because it was part of the Russian Empire, Estonia, for centuries, they accumulated various Oriental manuscripts, many of which were gifts from Persian ambassadors and rulers. So they take you into this library. And the city of Tartu, because it's kind of the boundary really between the Lutheran world and the Orthodox world, has been smashed and destroyed so many times. The famous battle with the Teutonic Knights, which was the easternmost expansion of medieval German crusades, is very close. Pskov is really not so far away. It's very close to Russia, but it's very Germanic in its feel. And smashed, destroyed, Sovietized, Nazified, de-Judaized, bombed by the Red Army, smashed. It's kind of been through every conceivable catastrophe because it's right at the boundaries between Western Europe and the Russian thing. Somehow, these manuscripts survived. And they take you into the library and they open up these amazing boxes, and of course you have to put on white gloves, and it's all very strict because these are really precious things worth millions. And the jewel in their crown is this miracle book, the Haft Awrang of Mulla Jami. And each page you turn and the thing, as it were, comes to light. And you can see the incredible brilliance of the manuscript writing and the beautiful ta'liq script, and it's one of the most beautiful books in the world, and alhamdulillah it survived there. It was a gift from a Persian ruler to the court of the Tsars at Petersburg, and ended up, after many adventures, in the university library at Tartu. So this is a very special book for the Muslims, the 7 Thrones. Each of these masnavis is on a very different kind of subject, and he worked over it and reworked it many times until he produced the final version. The first is the Silsila الذهب, the golden chain, which we already mentioned in terms of the polemic in Baghdad, which seems to build on this idea that there is an Ahl al-Bayt initiation for the Naqshbandiyya. But it really is a kind of psychological treatment of love and types of love. Remember Chittick's view that if you look at the literature of Islam, you can see Islam is a religion of love. That's the best way of describing it. So the psychology of love, what is it to fall in love? What is the difference between profane and holy love? What is the meaning of beauty? That's in the Silsila الذهب. The second one, also a love story, which is the Salaman and Absal. Now this was translated into English in the mid-19th century, Salaman and Absal, by Edward Fitzgerald, who also went on to do the translation for Omar Khayyam that went on to become a Victorian and Edwardian literary sensation, part of this, one of these waves of love. Salaman and Absal, the origin of the story is mysterious. It's already there in Ibn Sina, but essentially it's about how one passes from a false amatory affection to a true one, which means no longer loving the world, but loving the divine in the world and the source of the world and what the world indicates. And the story of Salaman and Absal basically is this prince who falls in love with his beautiful nursemaid. They kind of have a relationship. But the nursemaid is suitable for our infancy, but indicates really dunya. We kind of drink from the teats of dunya, and the nursemaid is kind to us and gives us all kinds of nice things, and so we love dunya. But actually, there's a great conflagration where it turns out that Absal is just made of straw and she suddenly burns up. So this is indicative of Salaman's spiritual progress as he recognizes the combustibility of the world and its passions, and then he goes on to find his true beloved. Number 3, he calls Tufat al-Ahrar, which, as the title indicates, the Ahrar's gifts, is dedicated to his friend Khwaja Ahrar, which is 20 discourses on religious topics with stories, like formal discussions. And this is again a major Naqshbandi monument. Number 4, Subhatul Abrar, the prayer bead of the virtuous, which is made up of 40 iqts, which is like a knot, each about a particular principle of the Naqshbandi way. Number 5, Yusuf and Zulaikha, Joseph and Zulaikha, the famous love story, which hopefully we'll have time to dip into briefly at the end of this talk. Number 6, of course, Layla and Majnun, one of the favourite love stories that comes into the waves of love that transform Europe and start raising it up from a kind of formalistic, monastery-based, flagellant religion and turning it towards the path of love. And then finally, Khردnامه اسکندری, the book of wisdom of Alexander the Great, which is about Alexander on his travels and the various sages and philosophers, including Aristotle, who he meets, who uplift him with various aphorisms on his way. So, the Haft Awrang, the Seven Thrones, is one of the great, extraordinary firework displays of Persian literary capacity, and also the sheer amount of wisdom which had been accumulated by the Muslims by this time, using love particularly as the master signifier that enables us, through our perception of beauty, to recognize the Creator's origin and presence originating and presence of the phenomena of existence.